Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Panamansa Pariprajaka Charja Sto Tirasata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nama Charja Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kundikiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you, Kendra Prabhu, for a lovely kirtan. And thank you, dear devotees, for joining once again as we kick off our weekend with a lively spiritual discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. As always, please feel free to participate. And our verse today is 16. So, chapter 4, verse number 16. If you don't have it, you can follow along in the chat box. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutade Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Sri Vishakhan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabh Bhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanchakolpatarubhyascha kripasindhobhyeva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, thank you again, Madan Gopal and all attendees. And special thanks to Kahantri Mataji and any other of my God brothers and God sisters who are here, and Leela Kar Prabhu, and all the devotees, Apurva and Kamalini. And here we are. And yes, all the devotees, Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Wednesday, we spent the entire time unpacking one line of Srila Prabhupada's purport. One should not concoct forms of devotional service. We only spent an hour on that, leaving many hours still to go sometime. But we move on to to other things. Vichakshana yachcharano pasadanat sangam yudasyo bhayato atmanaha vindantihi brahma gatim kadak klamas tasmai subhadra shavase namo namah. Again repeating, tasmai subhadra shavase namo namah. Again and again, I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's auspicious even to hear about, or auspicious especially to hear about. Let me offer my respectful obeisances again and again to the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, the highly intellectual Vichakshana, simply by surrendering unto his lotus feet, Yat Charana Upasadanat, are relieved of all attachments to present and future existences, this life and the next, Upaya. Sangam Yudasya, they're relieved of all attachments, Upayata, in this life or the next. Antaratmana, Antaratmana means heart and soul, or their subtle bodies entirely are freed from all attachments. And without difficulty, kataklama, without difficulty, progress, vindanti, toward spiritual existence, brahmagatim. The purport. Lord Sri Krishna has repeatedly instructed Arjuna, or for that matter, everyone concerned with becoming his unalloyed devotee. In the last phase of his instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, he instructed most confidentially, Sarva guhyatamam bhuya shrenu me paramam vachaha ishtosi me dhritamiti tato vakshami te hitam manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam ivaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva pape pyo mokshayashami ma shucha. My dear Arjun, you are very dear to me, and therefore only for your good I will disclose the most secret part of my instructions. It is simply this: become a pure devotee of mine and give yourself unto me only, and I promise you full spiritual existence, by which you may gain the eternal right of transcendental loving service unto me. Just give up all other ways of religiosity and exclusively surrender unto me, and I believe that I will protect you from your sinful acts, and I shall deliver you. Do not worry anymore. persons who are intelligent take serious notice of this last instruction of the Lord. The couple of things I'd like to point out about this last instruction. The first one, it's sort of obvious, but we forget it sometimes. These are, by the way, editorial musings, thoughts, things that editors think about, and I'll share them with you. The first is that there's more than one way to translate a verse. That's kind of obvious, but we forget it. And here, when verses are translated differently, as Srila Prabhupada does translate verses differently, new lights come out, new angles of vision, new sweetness, new understandings. It's not that it's cast in stone, that once it's translated once and printed on the page, that's the translation. Prabhupada translates different ways. We find that especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find verses that Prabhupada has translated differently in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam or elsewhere. And when he encounters them in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he again retranslates them with sometimes a different emphasis, a different understanding. And we can appreciate that. It's not a fault that somehow or other Prabhupada didn't do it the same way, but it's a beauty. It's an ornament. It's a sweet feature of Srila Prabhupada's work. And here, for example, I promise you full spiritual existence by which you may gain the eternal right of transcendental loving service unto me. There's a sweetness to that translation. That differs in a small way, but a nice way from Prabhupada's translation in Bhagavad Gita as it is. There's a comment. I also felt a nice and personal translation of these verses. Yes, it's kind of like that. Only for your good, I will disclose the most secret part of my instruction. It's simply this. So there's an intimacy in the way Srila Prabhupada translates it here. It's sweet, and we can appreciate that. It's not that we have to put a stamp and always make it come out the same way. Another point, and this is more confidential knowledge, I shall deliver you, do not worry anymore. Actually, Mashuchaha means that. It means do not worry. And how did it become do not fear? Here's how it became do not fear. Prabhupada dictated, therefore you have nothing to worry. That was his original dictation for that verse. Therefore you have nothing to worry. Well, that's not good English. You'd have to say nothing to worry about, or you'd have to say do not worry, but you can't say therefore you have nothing to worry. But it's, or you could say therefore you have nothing to fear. That's a standard English idiom. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, Winston Churchill. So looking at therefore you have nothing to worry, the editor, faced with various choices, rather than break the idiom, therefore you have nothing to, and make it, rather than break the idiom, he just kept the idiom, therefore you have nothing to fear. That works. He could have edited it, do not worry, and kept the worry, but instead he kept the idiom. And so we had, therefore you have nothing to fear, which Prabhupada, of course, accepted, and which I dared not change for the 1983 Bhagavad Gita as it is, because there would have been an uproar right then and there, I figured, and so I just left it. But for those who know Sanskrit or who would like to look closely at the words, Shucha means worry. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. And that's close enough to fear. It's not terribly different. But there you have it. Now you know as much as I know about that little corner of that verse. Now Srila Prabhupada is going to talk about, well, he starts with vichakshana, those who are intelligent, and he'll talk about brahmagati. What is the brahmagati? The goal, the spiritual goal of life, brahmagati. Persons who are intelligent, vichakshana, take serious notice of this last instruction of the Lord. Then Prabhupada explains, knowledge of the self is the first step in spiritual realization. That's confidential knowledge. Then next, God realization, more confidential. And the culmination, the culmination of that is God realization. A step further is God realization. Then naturally, voluntarily, one becomes a devotee of the Lord. He becomes a devotee to render him transcendental loving service. This devotional service is always based on love of God and is distinct from the nature of routine service as prescribed in karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. In other words, anyabhilashita shunya. It's not mixed with anything else. Unalloyed was Prabhupada's translation. One time, an editor changed that to unswerving. Prabhupada changed it back, unalloyed. Unalloyed devotional service. An alloy is something that you mix with a metal. You have, well, I won't get into metallurgy. I'd probably botch it. But the idea is that you have, well, steel, for example, and to harden it or to give it some other quality, they mix it with a little something. And then that's a steel alloy. But the Prabhupada saw a sign one time, I think it was in Boston in the late 60s. It said, unalloyed steel. And Prabhupada said, yes, we have unalloyed devotional service. So what is unalloyed? Anyabhilashita shunya. No gyan, no karma, nothing mixed in. Pure devotional service. There are different instructions for men of different categories, various descriptions for varnashram, sannyas, yati dharma. So dharma, dharma, and dharma, varnashram dharma, sannyas dharma, yati dharma, this dharma, that dharma, family dharma, what is that? Kula dharmas chashasvata. What's the verse? Jati dharma, kula dharmas chashasvata. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's Arjuna. Kula gnanam dharmakarakai utsadyante jati dharma kula dharmas chashasvata. So there's Arjuna complains, if I kill my seniors, that'll be the end of Kula Dharma, family duties, and Jati Dharma, duties according to Varnashram. So there are so many dharmas, but, and then the renounced order, controlling the senses, meditation, perfection of mystic powers, but one who fully surrenders to the Lord to render service out of spontaneous love for him, factually assimilates the essence of all knowledge described in the Vedas. One who adopts this method very skillfully attains perfection of life at once. And this perfection is called brahmagati, the progressive march in spiritual existence. So that's your brahmagati. Nate vidu svartakati, he Vishnu. One doesn't know that the ultimate goal of self-interest is Vishnu. So that Vishnu is Svartakati, he's Brahmagati, he's the ultimate Pati and Gati, he's the ultimate Lord and the ultimate destination. Attainment of this perfection, no. Brahmakati means to attain, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, on the basis of Vedic assurances. It means to attain a spiritual form as good as that of the Lord, and in that form, the liberated living being eternally lives on one of the spiritual planets situated in the spiritual sky. Attainment of this perfection of life is easily available to a pure devotee of the Lord without his undergoing any difficult method of perfection, simply by devotional service. Such a devotional life is full of kirtanam, smaranam, ikshanam, vandanam, all these methods of pure devotional life, as mentioned in the previous verse. Is it the previous verse? Yes, it is. Yad kirtanam, yad smaranam, yad ikshanam, yad vandanam, yad shravanam, yad arhanam. One must therefore adopt this simple way of devotional life in order to attain the highest perfection available in any category of the human form of life in any part of the world. It's the perfection, wherever you are, whoever you are. When Lord Brahma met Lord Krishna as a playful child in Vrindavan, he offered his prayer, Shreyas Shritim Bhaktim Udasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodha Labdhaye Te Shamaso Kleshala Eva Shishyate Nan Yad Yata Stula Tusyava Khatinam. Bhakti Yoga is the highest quality of perfection to be achieved by the intelligent person in lieu of performing a large quantity of spiritual activities. In lieu of means instead of. Instead of performing so many spiritual activities. Bhakti Yoga, what is that? Krishna Bhakti Koilo Sarva Karma Kritohai. Just by devotional service, one does everything. One accomplishes anything one might have accomplished by Karma Yoga, by Jnana Yoga, by Ashtanga Yoga, by Sannyas Dharma, by Varnashram Dharma, by this Dharma, by that Dharma. The example cited here is very appropriate. A handful of real paddy is more valuable than heaps of paddy skins without any substance within. Similarly, one should not be attracted by the jugglery of karma kanda or jnana kanda, or even the gymnastic performances of yoga, but skillfully should take, what is that in Bhagavad Gita? A yoga karmasu kaushalam, skillfully. One should take to the simple performances of kirtanam, smaranam, under a bona fide spiritual master, and without difficulty attain the highest perfection. This is our, well, again, it's like a simple thing. We just say, chant Hare Krishna, render devotional service to Krishna, engage in shravanam, kirtanam. But here, this is the highest thing. If one neglects this and takes to other methods, it's as if one were beating the empty rice paddy. You beat the paddy so you can separate the rice from the husk. If you just beat the husk, what are you doing? So that's what those people are doing who are taking some other method. They're simply undergoing trouble. Klishyantiye kevala bodha labdhiye. Nanyat yata stula tushabhatina. Okay, we have a couple of items on chat. Well, one on chat. To want reciprocation from the Lord, is that considered still mixed? I believe in CC, a prayer is, the Lord can kick me, ignore me, and I will still love the Lord or be his servant. Something like that. So to want a relationship with the Lord, to have reciprocation from the Lord, is that considered a Lloyd Bhakti? No, that's not considered a Lloyd Bhakti. One wants to serve the Lord, and naturally one is hoping against hope that the Lord will accept him. That's reciprocation, that I'm your servant. What is that? The same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who says you can kick me, you can, even that's reciprocation. kick me. That's all right. Embrace me or kick me, something. Give me some reciprocation. But the same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, what is that? Ai nanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddha kripaya tavapada pankaja stita dhuli sadrasham vichintaya. Please think of me as a tiny speck of dust at your feet. That's reciprocation. I'm surrendering to you. Please take me. Please accept me. That's reciprocation. So that's not outside of the realm of pure devotional service. Of course, the devotee doesn't demand that I'm surrendering to you and I want you to reciprocate in this way or that way. Here's what I'm doing and here's what I expect from you. That's not the idea. But it's up to you how you want to reciprocate. It's up to you. And even if you don't reciprocate, still I'll serve you if you apparently don't reciprocate. That discussion was there between Krishna and the gopis. What kind of lover is best? The one who reciprocates, the one who doesn't reciprocate? Krishna said those who reciprocate, that's good. But sometimes that can just be like business. I did this for you, you do this for me. I gave you a kiss, you give me a kiss. It's like business. But Krishna says, I sometimes don't reciprocate just to intensify the devotee's love for me. Just to intensify the devotee's love for me. So it's natural to want reciprocation, and that's not rejected. But finally, the Lord is independent. He can do as he likes. Yata tata va. And Tulsi Priya says, I think the difference is that the devotee continues to in his or her service, even if the Lord seemingly neglects him. Yes, that's the idea. The devotee serves. He doesn't say, I've served you this long, and what have I got? I've chanted Hare Krishna all day, and still I'm not feeling anything. I'm not, no tears, no standing of the hairs on end. I've been chanting for so long, and what am I getting? Whatever. I'll just serve. And what you choose, how you choose to reciprocate, that's up to you. But my business is to serve. Okay, thank you. Shall we move on to the next verse? If there's no other question, we can.
There was one question from
Samarpana has a question before Tina's. Okay, I missed it. Sorry. Prabhupada says, one who adopts this method very skillfully attains perfection of life at once. It's interesting. This is what we call a Janus modifier, or there's a word, a squinting modifier. We don't know for sure whether very skillfully means very skillfully adopts or very skillfully attains. They can go either way. That's called a squinting modifier. You're not 100% sure. But it looks to me like one who adopts this method very skillfully rather than very skillfully attains. But either is true. If one adopts this method, one is very skillfully taking the means to attain perfection. Or if one adopts this method very skillfully, either way. But very skillfully, yoga karma sukoshalam. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this is the art of all work. How do you adopt devotional service skillfully? By following the predecessor acharya, by following the instructions. You don't have to be brilliant, you don't have to be the most expert, but if you follow the instructions of the spiritual master, That's skillful. If we look at it the other way, very skillfully attains perfection. Devotional service is the most dexterous method or skillful method. You're skillful because you didn't take to the less, like if you use a chisel when a screwdriver is required, you may do something, but a skillful person uses the screwdriver, or a skillful person does things in the most, in the smartest and most effective way. So the smartest and most effective way of attaining perfection is to engage in devotional service. So take that squinting modifier either way, the outcome will be the same.
Maharaj, it's interesting, the word skill, the root of the word skill comes from the Old Norse. It's a Nordic word called skill, S-K-I-L, which means knowledge or discernment. And it comes from the original science, sciere, Latin. So it's like knowledge infused, if you do work infused with knowledge, that's skillful work. It's kind of interesting root that goes back.
It is. Norse, skillful. And koshalam would come from kushala. So kushal means kind of happily in a congenial fashion. Sab kushal hai, everything's going nicely. So yoga, karma through kaushala. Okay. There's another question.
Mataji has a question.
Wow, it's amazing how many questions I'm missing. Okay,
I
let's.
just asked it. Now. I just asked it now, or I just put my hand down.
Okay, and that we have. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking when you were talking about skillfully and following the order of the spiritual master, for some weird reason popped into my head. Like sometimes in old movies, old musicals that has a dance number, somebody will do a certain sequence of dance moves, and then a person who seemingly has no knowledge of the dance move copies him and does exactly the same thing. And I was thinking how in my own experience, sometimes I'll see once like something for a recipe or a cooking technique or something like that. It will instantly stay in my head and I will never forget it, even years later, just from seeing it once. And I'm thinking, that's because of interest. When you have an intense interest in something, somebody can show you just once and you may absorb it. Whereas if you're not so interested, you need to be shown over and over and told over and over and over again. So that kind of tied in with the skillfully thing, that if you have the interest and the person shows you or tells you something, then you absorb it quickly. But sometimes when we don't absorb things skillfully, it's probably an indication that we're really not as interested as we think we are, and we need to increase that interest.
Nice point. Also, from another point of view, even if someone imitates not being very interested, as we find on the Sankirtan, that somebody's passing by and he imitates the devotees, that's also good. Just that he's somehow or other picking it up, gets carried along. That's immensely valuable for him. And what you said is also true, so thank you. Let's see. If we find a Kendra's question, we have attachments to present and future existences. Should we understand that we haven't actually surrendered? I wanted to look at that attachment to present and future existences just for a moment. Attachment to present and future existences. Yeah. Relieved of all attachments to present and future existences. Yes, if we're attached to present and future existences, that means that we still have a way to go. Yeah, we haven't fully surrendered. We're in a surrendering process. Yeah. Let's see what's going on. One new message. Also to clarify or to say in other words, Atina asks, Are these the 3 steps or levels of spiritual life Srila Prabhupada mentioned that you read? 1, realize I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. 2, there's a God. 3, become the Lord's devotee. Yes, that's it. Confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. The beginning is to realize I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. But that's not all. There's a supreme spirit, soul. There's God. So we go from spiritual realization to God realization. And all right, I'm spirit, soul. God's the supreme spirit, soul. Now what? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyadi. Now I have to become Krishna's devotee. So that's the third, the highest stage, the stage of devotional service. Yes, you got it right. Thank you. Okay. We can go on, I believe, to 17. Up. Yes, thank you. Tapasvino, Dhanapara, Yashashvino, Manasvino, Mantravida Sumangalaha, Kshemam Navindanti, Vina Yadarpadam, Tasmai Subhadra Shavase Namo Namaha. This is a group of exalted people, advanced people, people who have some credit, people who are described in Bhagavad Gita, Sukritina, meritorious people. So let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna again and again. Tasmai Subhadra Shavase Namo Namaha. Because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of the Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitful result without dedication of such great qualities to the service of the Lord. So Tapasvino, the great learned sages who are undergoing austerities, Dhanapara, the very charitable men, Yashashvina, the workers of distinction, famous people, Manasvino, great thoughtful people, philosophers, mystics, Mantravida, the expert chanters of Vedic hymns, Sumangalaha, the strict followers of the Vedic principles. Kshemam. Kshema means the fruitful result. Yoga kshema bahamyam. Kshemam navindanti. They don't get it. They don't attain that desired result. Vina yadarpanam. Without engaging in dedication to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Without such dedication of their great qualities. In other words, their great qualities are all useless unless they're engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Who cares for your charity? Who cares for your austerity? Who cares about your karma yoga? Who cares about your following the Vedic hymns? The yogic Brahmins realize that about themselves. The hell with our being great Brahmins. The hell with our being with our Vedic performances. The hell with our Vedic knowledge. The hell with all of it. Because we haven't developed love for Krishna. Our wives are so much more advanced than we are because they have love for Krishna. Well, all we do is sit here and light fires and chant hymns. And what is it? Shreya eva hi kevalam. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Without engagement in devotional service, all of our good qualities are useless. All of our good qualities are useless. Advancement of learning, a charitable disposition, political, social, or religious leadership of human society, philosophical speculations, the practice of the yoga system, expertise in the Vedic rituals, and all similar high qualities in men serve one in the attainment of perfection only when employed in the service of the Lord. In other words, without being employed in the service of the Lord, these are all decorations of a dead body. They're all useless. Without such dovetailing, all such qualities become sources of trouble for people in general. Fame becomes a problem. Your intellect becomes a problem. Your everything becomes a stumbling block for progress. Everything can be utilized either for one's own sense gratification or in the service of one other than oneself. There are two kinds of selfish interest also, namely personal selfishness and extended selfishness. But there's no qualitative difference between personal and extended selfishness. Theft for personal interest or for family interest is of the same quality, namely criminal. A thief pleading not guilty because of committing theft, not for his personal interest, but for the interest of society or country, has never been excused by the established law of any country. So that's practical. That no, I'm not selfish. I did this for my family. Oh, I'm not selfish. I did this for my community. You're selfish. It's just your extended selfishness. I did this for my party. I did this for my race. I did this for my whatever. No, it's just your extended selfishness. People in general have no knowledge that the self-interest of a living being attains perfection only when such an interest coincides with the interests of the Lord. For example, what is the interest of maintaining body and soul together? One earns money for maintenance of the body, personal or social, but unless there's God consciousness, unless the body is being properly maintained to realize one's relationship with God, all good efforts to maintain body and soul together are similar to the attempts of the animals to maintain body and soul together. The purpose of maintaining the human body is different from that of the animals. Earlier we heard that if you're breathing, but you're not engaged in the service of the Lord, your breathing is like the breathing of a bellows. If your hands are not engaged in the service of the Lord, then they're like the hands of a dead man. If your head is not bound, not engaged in the service of the Lord, it's just whatever's on your head, your hat, your crown, is just a weight. If your legs don't go to the temple, they're no better than tree trunks. If your eyes don't see the beautiful form of the Lord, they're like the eyes on a peacock feather. So in this way, whatever we have that's supposedly good, it's useless. That you're a great writer, that you're a great singer, that you're a great intellectual, that you're a great painter, that you're a great this, you're a great that. Without devotional service to the Lord, it all becomes zero. Even maintaining the body. What is the use of maintaining the body? Just to nakadanti namehanti. Kim, what is that? Something pashupe parade, like that. Again, earlier in this canto, that the hogs are also eating. They're also discharging semen. They're also. So what is the distinction? What did you do in your life? I ate. I had children. Great, the dogs do that. The advancement of learning, economic development, philosophical research, study in the Vedic literature, or even the execution of pious activities like charity, opening of hospitals, and the distribution of food grains should be done in relation with the Lord. The aim of all such acts and endeavors must be the pleasure of the Lord, and not the satisfaction of any other identity, individual or collective. Samsiddhi Haritoshana, Tapumbir, Drija Shreshta, Varnashrama Vibhadasha, Swanustitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshana. That's the perfection. In the Bhagavad Gita, the same principle. Whatever we may give in charity, whatever we may observe in austerity, must be given over to the Lord, or be done on his account only. The expert leaders of a godless human civilization cannot bring about a fruitful result in all their different attempts at educational advancement or economic development unless they are God conscious. This is practical. It's our own life is a failure. Parabhavastava Bodha Jato, Yavana Jigyasata Atma Tattva. Unless we try to understand Krishna, our own life is a failure, and the life of our civilization is a failure. Our great universities, our great cities, our great empires, if there's no connection with the service of the Lord, they're all useless. They're all useless. They can't bring about a fruitful result. Rather, they bring about so much trouble. But when intelligence, learning, scientific skill and understanding, and everything else is engaged in the service of Krishna, then it's brilliant. And to become God conscious, one has to hear about the all-auspicious Lord as he is described in literature like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. This is who Krishna is. He's the person that is auspicious just to hear about. To become God conscious, one has to hear about the all-auspicious Lord. Rukmini became determined to have Krishna as her husband just by hearing. The sages used to visit her father's court and talk about Krishna. That was enough, just hearing about Krishna. I've got to have Krishna as my husband, that's all. No Shishupals, no anyone else. How did it happen? Just by hearing. So hearing about Krishna is so auspicious. Samarpana gives us the quotation from 10th Canto. To hell with our threefold birth, our vow of celibacy, our extensive learning. To hell with our aristocratic background, our expertise in the rituals of sacrifice. To hell with it all. These are all condemned because we were inimical to the transcendental personality of Godhead. This was the realization of the Yogic Brahmins. Atina says, to clarify, if one is a painter or writer and offers all fruits to Krishna, that is karma yoga. But if one paints or writes about Krishna, that is bhakti. No, if one is a painter or writer and offers all fruits to Krishna, yes, that may be considered karma yoga, but it may also be considered bhakti yoga, that I'm just doing this for Krishna. The Satsrup Maharaj was working at the welfare office in the early days of 26 2nd Avenue. So what did that have to do with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu? But it was bhakti yoga, because why was he doing it? Srila Prabhupada had requested him to do it. He could, Satsrup Maharaj was thinking, no, I should be at the ashram with the other devotees. Prabhupada said, no, I think we need the money. Back then, just a little bit of money that you would get from working in the welfare department was a big deal. So, you work, you continue to work. So that was bhakti yoga, it wasn't karma yoga. Karma yoga generally means, of course, karma yoga, all of these things, Prabhupada uses these terms a little flexibly, sometimes to mean one thing, sometimes to mean another. So sometimes karma yoga means with attachment, that I'm attached to karmic activities, but I dovetail them, I connect them with the Lord. So the karma is still prominent, but it's connected to Krishna. Or sometimes Prabhupada uses it synonymously with bhakti yoga. I'm working but it's all dedicated to Krishna. So that's there's no separate interest. So that's bhakti yoga or karma yoga. Prabhupada equates the two sometimes. Of course, to directly paint or write about Krishna, I may write something just to get money and use it to support the temple. I may paint something and sell the painting and get money for the temple. If one can directly paint about Krishna or write about Krishna, that's super excellent. Praveen says there are famous Iskcon devotees on YouTube with millions of views. Devotees appreciate that they are making Iskcon famous, although no Krishna Katha, since eventually they shall come to know Krishna on little inquiry. Yeah, I don't think I'll say anything about that. I don't think I'll say anything about that.
So Maharaj, what is the critical difference between karma yoga and bhakti yoga in this context of the discussion? Like if we want to make one point that this is what makes it distinctly karma yoga in contrast to the bhakti yoga.
Prabhupada takes it, when he takes it that way, it's like karma, but you've put a coating of yoga on it. You've added devotional service. So now your karma, your fruitive activity is starting to transform into devotional service. We do that. We take some person who has an occupation and we ask him if he can give a contribution, either in cash or in kind. We ask him can he use his skill or can he give some money. And even though he may not be all that much, he may not know much about Krishna, he may not be all that attracted to Krishna, but he thinks because he's pious, because he's one of these meritorious people, he thinks, why not? Or maybe just you've made him meritorious. He wasn't all that meritorious, but now you're pushing him toward being meritorious. So along with his karma, he thinks, well, let me dedicate this, let me dedicate something to Krishna. So the karma now gets a coating, an additive of devotional service that transforms ordinary karma to karma yoga. The yoga means devotional service. It means connection with Krishna. So now his karma is connected, karma yoga. A Jnani, you ask him to do something, use your intelligence for Krishna, use your intelligence for philosophical research, use your intelligence to read Bhagavad Gita. So now his Gyan is starting to become Jnana Yoga because there's some connection now with Krishna. So it's still prominently karma, it's still prominently Gyan, but it's no longer just karma or just Gyan. Now it's karma yoga, Jnana Yoga. It's been up-leveled by devotional service. So it's no longer useless. Your karma is useless. Your Gyan is useless. Your mystic perfections are useless. But once there's some connection to Krishna, now it's karma yoga, Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. Or looking at it now from another way, when he's no longer attached to the karma, he'll do that karma, or he'll do anything. He'll just, because he's surrendered to Krishna. He no longer has to read this book or read that book or take this speculative method or that speculative method. He just wants to serve Krishna. The mystic powers no longer attracts him. He just wants to serve Krishna. Then it becomes pure devotional service.
Tulsi Priya has a connected question.
When the president allowed the devotees to prepare the Ratha Yatra on his property, was that karma yoga? It was a good move, I could tell you that. He might not be president today were it not for that good fortune. Of course, that we may not be appreciated on that account, but yes, you could say that was karma. He was engaging some of his undoubtedly ill-gotten wealth in Krishna's service. So that was, what would you say? The devotees made him fortunate. He wasn't going out there looking well, I've got this property, how can I use it in the service of the Lord? But the devotees made him fortunate. They made him fortunate. Sir, can we use, you have this property, can we use it? And somehow or other, Krishna gave him the good intelligence to say, why not? Some credit is there, but he also said, why not? So that's the beginning. He took some step toward the service of Krishna, and that is never lost. What is that? Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mato bhayat. It can save him from the greatest fear. Here it's really fear. It's not worry, it's fear. It can save one from the greatest fear, that of gliding down to the lowest regions. Yes, Prabhin says, agata sukriti. Agata sukriti. Without even knowing it, he's doing something fortunate. He's doing something for Krishna. Samarpan says, karma done, the activity or the fruits for oneself offered to Krishna, and bhakti is done for Krishna as an offering to Krishna. Is this correct? Yes, generally we take it that way. That karma yoga means he offers the fruits to Krishna, and bhakti means it's exclusively for the service of Krishna. And Tulsi Priya says, if you want to be president, do something for the devotees. Yes, you can start writing a book. Donald Trump became president because of the giving space for the Ratha Yatra card. Stephen Jobs became the head of the most innovative and successful software company on account of going to the Hare Krishna temple to take Mahaprasadam, and so on and so on and so on. But yes, anyone famous, he may be Yashasvina. It was useless, his fame, his this, that. But when, whoever he was, when he engaged in some service to the Lord, then it becomes auspicious. So this verse particularly deals with exceptional people, great people, the learned sages, tapasvis, great men of charity, famous people, distinguished people, thoughtful, deep thinkers, manasvina, experts in mantras, serious adherents of the Vedic principles. These are great people. It's not just your ordinary Joe Slob. These are distinguished. These are excellent people. These are people who have some pious credit in their lives. Someone becomes famous. Someone becomes a follower of the Vedas. Someone becomes a great philanthropist. Someone becomes a philosopher by sukriti, by pious credit. And these people can attain the perfection of their credit by engaging in the service of Krishna. And without that service to Krishna, shramevahi kevalam, they're missing it. They're not going to get the fruit that's available to them. They're looking for knowledge. They're looking for perfection through their work. They're looking for true fame, lasting fame. They're looking for power, mystic power, or political power. But all these things will slip through their fingers. It will all be temporary. It will all be superficial. But when they engage in devotional service of the Lord, they attain the perfection of knowledge, the perfection of work, the perfection of reputation, the perfection of life. So these, again, are all great people with great qualifications. And these great qualifications are perfected only when one engages in devotional service. And we shall stop there because it's 9 o'clock. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, dear devotees. So please hold on to your questions for next time. We can pick it up on Monday. and just going to make our regular announcements. So, as you know, we've been having on Thursdays this thing called Vanaprastha Adventure. And now it's somewhat more broadened. The scope has been broadened, and we're calling it Ishtagoshti. So Ishtagoshti is going to be on Thursdays. So what is Ishtagoshti? It's live interactive discussions on applied spiritual wisdom with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj on Thursday at 7 p.m. So this is the same channel as the Vanaprastha Adventure. So please make a note of that. This the link is on Maharaj's website under the About section, and this Vanaprastha Adventure link. So please join for that. I think you'll enjoy it. Pathways to Perfection will continue tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time with Gauranga Prabhu, Archanam, offering worship. This is tinyurl.com/Bhakti Center. This is the link for that, so please join for that. And then a little bit later after that, tomorrow morning at 11:30, we have His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj reading from the book Soul Eyes. It's a wonderful poetry book that he wrote a few years ago. So please join for that. And on Sunday evening, we have His Grace Shesha Prabhu giving the class at our 8 p.m. session. So got wonderful speakers coming up. And we'll be announcing our next week's speakers as well on Sunday. So please be sure to join. So at this point, I would like to welcome all devotees to join me in thanking Maharaj. I'm thinking we can thank Maharaj in a different way. We can all say Hare Krishna together, the Hare Krishna mantra, and we can all participate. So please join me. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram,
Hare
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 Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Hare.
Ram, Hare Hare.
Dandavat
Thank you,
Pranam
Maharaj.
Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai,
Jai,
Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
So,